Hey everyone, welcome to the final part of my in-depth review on this new, that was a lot of rhyming, Tyranids Codex. As always, my name is Jay, and I will be going over, to this part, I will be going over the heavy support choices for the new Tyranids Codex, as well as my final impressions of the Codex after giving it a very in-depth review. And the great thing about doing these reviews is that I read the Codex a few times over, but I'm always learning and realizing new stuff as I go along. Yeah, so far I'm just not very impressed. New Codex, we'll see. So now we get to the heavy support. Now the heavy support was always a fun choice for Tyranids. You get to bring the Carnifexes, but the Carnifexes got pretty heavily nerfed last edition. They got very expensive, and that was when Jaws was very popular at the beginning, and Carnifexes got taken away and sucked into the warp pretty quickly. The problem is, and also the big problem was in 5th edition was when they lost Eternal Warrior when they were in Synapse, because force weapons became increasingly popular when Grey Knights came out, and the new Eldar, for example, have a lot of access to instant killing weapons. So it was great when you could protect them by keeping them in Synapse, but you lost that in 5th edition. Rumor has it that they might have been bringing that back in 6th edition. That, of course, was wrong. So, yeah. So now we get to the heavy support choices. Now, in my favorite heavy support choice in the past was always a Trigon Prime, because they are Synapse, they were hard hitting, they got to reroll all their to hit rolls because of 2 sets of Twin Link Sighting Talons. That's now gone, and that sucks. But we'll go over them. Not much has changed to any of the stat lines, but the points costs have been adjusted. So we'll start off with everyone's favorite, the Carnifex. Now, most Carnifexes were converted last edition to be Trigon Turbogons before the models came out. Some people will probably be converting back. Obviously, GW is now selling their 2 Carnifex kits, so you kind of got the impression ahead of time that Carnifexes would be bumped up in the chain of awesomeness. And it's true. They got cheaper, considerably cheaper. They used to be 165 points, I believe, or 160 points, and now they've been dropped down a quarter of their points to 120 points, which is pretty nice. You can take a brood of up to 3 of them, and they might be awesome, especially if you give them just DACA. You know, some sets of Twin Link Devourers with Brainleech Worms. It would be pretty effective. It's a pretty cheap heavy support choice for 3 of them, 360 points for that many shots. That's, you know, 36 Twin Link shots, needing 4s to hit. Obviously, if you run into a squad of Grey Knights, you're in trouble, or Eldar, or Tau, or Space Marines with grav guns. So it's very, you know, hopefully they can survive. They have 2 pairs of Sighting Talons to begin with. They have Fearless, Instinctive Behaviors Feed, Living Battering Ram. The main upgrade that I like about it in this Codex is their bump up 1 in initiatives. Now they're base 2, and Living Battering Ram, I believe, updates them to a 4 when they assault it. So I'll look that up in the meantime, but that's not bad. You know what, Living Battering Ram, sorry, when this model charges, it inflicts D3 Hammer Wrath attacks rather than just 1. Okay, so D3. Of course, it's not AP, but still, it helps. You can give it some different tail biomorphs or some guns. You can take spine banks. Now, I don't know what spine banks are. Let me look at what spine banks could be. Spine banks. All right, spine banks. Oh, 8-inch range, strength 3, assault 1 blast. So some shots. Yeah, that's about it. I do think a good option will be the Twin Link Devourer option. It's 135 points per model. That's pretty good. But that's pretty much the awesomeness ending with the heavy support. Next is Biovores. Biovores, I'm pretty sure, stayed the same. Oh, sorry, they dropped by 5 points. Same stat line, same shooting. Yeah. Next, Trigons. Trigons got 10 points cheaper, from 200 points down to 190. But they got nerfed because they have 2 sets of Sighting Talons, but they no longer get to re-roll all their hits. So they're not as good in close combat. They have Deep Strike, Fearless Fleet, Instinctive Behavior Feed, Subterranean Assault. They still kept Subterranean Assault, and same with the Trigon Prime. Trigon Prime got drop 10 points to 230. You can give them Toxin Spikes or Prehensile Pincers. And you can give them Biomorphs or Tyranid Bio Artifacts if it's a Tyranid Prime. Cool. Next, Moloch. Oh, sorry, just to let you know, for the stat lines, they're all the same, identical as they were beforehand. Moloch, same thing as before. It got dropped in cost from 170 down to 140, which is actually a considerable drop. This is probably the one section where I've actually seen it worth paying these drops. But the Moloch, I'm not amazingly impressed with. I've never been really impressed with him. He's fun. He's a little gimmicky. Not the most competitive. Up next, we have one of the new ones, the Exocrine, right? Who's kind of the Biovore on steroids. Here he is right here. You know, Biovore on steroids. So I'm going to go into some detail with him. He has the same stat line, his weapon skill, ballistic skill 3, strength and toughness 6, 5 wounds, initiative 3, 3 attacks, leadership 7, 3 plus save. So you'll notice with these heavy supports, other than Trigon Prime, the leaderships are really low. And also they're not Synapse creatures other than the Trigon Prime. So you got to keep them in Synapse, otherwise they might go crazy. They are fearless, so they will get to ignore some rolls. And he has a Bioplasmic Cannon and Sighting Talents. Now let's look at Bioplasmic Cannon, see what it does. So a Bioplasmic Cannon. Let's see. It has 2 versions, a Blast and Streams. The Blast is 24-inch range, strength 7, AP 2, assault 1, large blast. That's nice. Especially with Terminators in this game and stuff. A large blast that is strength 7, AP 2. That is nice. I do agree in this slot that the Exocrine was useful. Or it has Stream Mode, strength 7, AP 2, assault 6. So it depends on what you're shooting at. If it's a small number of targets, like 3 Terminators, do the assault 6 on it. But of course his weapon skill is 3, so the odds are you're only going to hit 3 of them anyway. So it's up to you. That's it. Yeah, he only has X as the 1 gun. Cool. And finally the Tyrannifex. The Tyrannifex has also been dropped considerably in cost to make it more appropriate, because the Tyrannifex, once again, is not a very competitive model. Now he's tough. He's tough to kill. He has a 2-up save. He's the only 2-up save in the frickin' Codex. But he's kind of useless, because he has that gun. He has the Stinger Salvo, but I prefer him with the Rupture Cannon. The Rupture Cannon gets 2 shots, and he needs 4s to hit. So the odds are he hits once every 2 shots, and he'll probably pop something a turn, and he'll just stay alive, pop things a turn. Once again, though, if you run against a squad of bikes with grav guns, you're in trouble. Or anything with instant killing capacity. You know, I really wish that something in this Tyranid Codex had access to invulnerable saves or Eternal Warrior. But that's about it. So he's been dropped to 175 from 250. So that's a considerable drop. That's basically a third in cost. 250 down to 175. That's pretty nice. But as I said, the thing is with the heavy support with this thing is I like to take the Prime still, because he's Synapse and he's still pretty heavy hitting. Tyrannifexes will be increased, in playability, and so will Carnifexes, and the Exocrine. So that's pretty awesome. Trigon I probably wouldn't take. Carnifex Brood would be fun. 3 Carnifexes, and just hopefully you don't run into anything that will eat them for breakfast. They'll get some DAC off at 18 inches. You know what? They'll definitely get some shooting off and kill some infantry. And the Exocrine. So this is probably the first slot of the Force Organization chart that I like. But yeah, that concludes my heavy support analysis. So I might as well conclude this in-depth review of my Tyranid Codex with my final thoughts. My final thoughts, I stick with them. I guess the heavy support choice is pretty good, but not amazing to me. This Codex is weak. I don't like it. I think I don't understand even why it happened, essentially. It seems more like an update. The fact is, most of the good things got nerfed. Several of the good things got removed. The Doom Malentai should not have been taken out. Imgarl Gene Stealers should not have been taken out. Spore Pods should not have been taken out. Now the problem with the Tyranids is the fact that they're very slow. They're not very mobile. They can't deep strike. They can't drop deep strike right on top of your opponent, for example, with the Zoanthropes, or the Doom doesn't exist anymore. They have no access to Biomancy. They have absolutely no access to Eternal Warrior. They have no access to invulnerable saves. One model has a 2-up save. That's pretty ridiculous. I don't think that's fair at all, because every other army has access to invulnerable saves. Every other army has access to Eternal Warrior, at least with some models. And I think the Swarm Lord, who's fought his way across the galaxy, should have access to Eternal Warrior. And he does have a 4+ invul in close combat, right? But and the Zoanthropes have invuls, but why not the Trigons? Why not? Because they're monstrous creatures with no access. The Hive Tyrant has no access to invuls. The Swarmlord has no access to invuls from shooting. Basically, they're sitting ducks. And 6th edition is all about shooting. It's not about assault. And shooting will destroy the Tyranids, because they can be outgunned. The Swarmlord is really slow, and it'll be very hard for him to get in close combat. Many of these guys will be gunned down before getting there. Of course, you'll have tons of the little grumbly dudes, but really, that's not the most fun to play, because you just put 30 bodies upon 30 bodies on the table and remove them 20 at a time. It's pretty frustrating to play like that. I don't know. So overall, I'm not too impressed. They really, really decided to nerf a lot of things, and the Tyranids are going to take a heavy hit, and I hope that something happens in 7th edition. Maybe we'll be good for the first half of 7th, because this marks like 5 years of really bad codices for the Tyranids. I don't find much has changed. They didn't, HQs, you'll play with the same HQs you did before. You'll play with the same troops you did before. You may never use any fast attacks, other than maybe one of these new flying monstrous creatures. The elites, you'll pretty much use the same ones you did before, other than the fact you may not use Zoanthropes, because they may not be able to get into battle. I'd still stick with Hive Guard. Yeah. I just don't know. I don't know what to think anymore about this con. Obviously, it'll depend on the synergy. You'll never use Warriors. You probably never use Raveners, and you'll never use Geeden Stealers. The heavy support, you may see the return of 3 Carnifex groups, maybe 6 Carnifexes in a list. That'd be interesting. A lot of wounds to take care of, unless you have some instant killing capacity. But it seems like you'll be really rock, paper, scissors-ish. You run up against Grey Knights, you're dead. Eldar, dead. Tau, dead. Certain Space Marine lists, dead. What are you good at? For 6th edition Codex, I kind of expected more, and I'm disappointed. The new instinctive behaviors don't make much sense to me. The psychic powers, it's basically as if they took just the psychic powers from their old Codex, made them weaker. Shadows in the Warp is weaker. Tervagons are much weaker. I don't know. People might argue that certain things got stronger, which is true. Certain things got cheaper, also true. But the overall feel of this codex, I think that the competitive lists are going to be few and far in between, and they're going to be very specific in that once people figure it out, you'll be in trouble. I think most of the competitive lists will all involve the same models: a Flyrant, some Tervagon, maybe 2 Flyrants, some Tervagons, some Gaunts, Carnifexes maybe, probably some of these new monstrous creatures. That's your list. But those are just my final thoughts. Maybe you disagree with them. Maybe I'm completely wrong. I don't think so. Well, I could be wrong, but I don't think that I could be that wrong based on the information of this codex. I'm a little disappointed, to say the least. But yeah, so I really hope you enjoyed this in-depth review. Stay tuned for the unboxings of some of these new kits. They look pretty nice. From a modeler perspective, at least, I'm happy. And I really hope you enjoyed them. Please like the video, comment in the comment section down below. Subscribe to my channel if you already haven't done so. And until next time, this is Jay saying, happy painting, everyone.